I kind of want to explain to you guys today how somebody can end up in this industry servicing a number of wineries, the skill set that's required to do that, and maybe you can see some interest that, hey, I'm really good at this and that interests me, and I'm not great at that, so maybe this isn't for me. And just kind of talk about a couple of the clients I have, some of the work I've done, and that way hopefully by the end you get an overview of kind of what it's like to, on a daily basis, help marketing for wineries. So how did I get here? Way back in the day, the year was 1998, I graduated from Boston College, where I met my now wife. Along the way of dating our senior year, I discovered that her family owned a winery in McMinnville, Panther Creek. And so after graduating, we said, hey, let's go check out the West Coast. I'm from the East Coast originally. Allison's actually from Iowa. And so we meandered our way out to McMinnville, where I lived for a couple of years. And at that time, 21-year-old, started helping at the winery. So we were just helping out. We were helping out. There was no tasting rooms at the time. There was only maybe 30, 40 wineries in the Willamette Valley at the time. And so we just started helping out with harvest, with some marketing, with bookkeeping, anything we could kind of get our hands on to learn the business. And so we were building our own side business, our own business called Lunabean.com. We wrote video game strategy guides. We were both English majors, figured we should put our technical writing skills to good use. We started building a website out for it, and we started learning everything there was to know about digital marketing on the fly. We built websites, we started doing all the things that people do now in social media. We were doing with message boards and chat rooms, and we had a webcam pointed at our fish tank that would take a picture every 30 seconds of our fish. And this is a novel idea in 99, 2000, and we started getting a ton of traffic and a ton of hits. Meanwhile, we're still helping at Panther Creek, and we were applying everything that we were learning about selling a digital product. We basically sold a subscription to our online catalog. We were applying that to the wine biz, and we said, well, you know what, it's kind of the same thing. We're trying to build a loyal audience, and so let's have some message boards over on the Panther Creek website. So we built them a website, and we had Michael basically answer club members' questions about, when should I drink this 99 Nisa? When should I do this? And so all of a sudden now we're basically using all these social media tools that are now readily available, but we were using them back then to build that loyal following. A few years later, we decided that we should try to open up a tasting room at Panther Creek, and we literally just had a table in the middle of a concrete floor. And we said, you know what, we're going to be open once a month on Saturday. And because we had been building that loyal following and grabbing email addresses at the time, we emailed people, said we're going to be open. Sure enough, people started to come. And at the time, we were one of the few wineries that was kind of opening a tasting room. It was very much a appointment only, Thanksgiving and Memorial Weekend system at the time, and that's when everybody would come out. The concept that you could have a tasting room and actually sell wine was novel to some people at that time. So it was successful enough that we started doing every Saturday, and then point being, we had a lot of experience selling wine for several years through that tasting room. IPNC came to Panther Creek and said, hey, who's doing your website stuff, because it looks like they're doing a great job. And my father-in-law said my daughter and son-in-law are doing it, so we built the IPNC website years and years and years ago. And more people kept asking, who's doing your stuff? And word of mouth just got around that, hey, these guys are doing a good job with wine marketing. And we kind of said to ourselves, well, we can kind of slave away writing video game strategy guides that we may or may not sell, or we can just, people are trying to give us money, maybe we should go that route. About 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, we kind of said, you know what, let's just start doing this. And so the client roster has grown quite a bit. So we service a lot of the people in the Willamette Valley. We have a couple down in California, and now I also go around speaking to wine associations, Finger Lakes, Paso Robles, Walla Walla, that kind of thing. Basically, I write a lot of email newsletters for clients, ghostwriting, so copywriting is a big part of this. 50% of anything really in life, but in marketing too, is organization. So it's sitting down with the client and saying, for the next 6 months, what are we doing? What's going on? What are the events? How are we going to market it? What's the theme this month? What wines are we going to sell? What wines are we short on? What wines are we long on? What do we want to market here? And so it's really just sitting down with people, having good communication skills, and just figuring out what the heck they want to sell, basically what story do they want to tell. And so that's what we do kind of on a daily basis. And once that gets planned out, then it's execution time. So on a daily basis, we're juggling about 14 different clients and saying, okay, who needs what when? And this is a particularly busy time because everybody needs their Thanksgiving and holiday game plan, right? And everybody needs to know, okay, the shipping cutoff date's gonna be this date, and all these little factors that you learn along the way of how to sell wine, both to club members and to the general public, as I call them, or non-club. But what I really do, and this is what it comes down to too, when you first meet a client that I'm familiar with a lot of the wineries here, but not in depth with them. And so they come to me and I go in there and I say, what's the story? Willamette Valley is particularly challenging. I have an easier time in California, but what's the thing about Willamette Valley, guys? What do we all make? Pinot, right? Okay, so I have 300 wineries who all make Pinot Noir, right? Okay. Price point, 40 to 60-ish. Okay, who got a 90 or above? 85% of the wines. Okay, so where's my point of differentiation, right? What's my unique selling proposition, right? Marketing 101. And in the Willamette Valley, it's really hard because you go through, well, everybody gets good scores. Everybody makes a good Pinot. And the winemakers don't help because they're so damn humble that they'll say the guy down the road makes just as good a wine as me. So what do? We have to find that story. What is it about that winery that makes them different than the guy down the road? So you really have to drill down. And it sometimes helps a winery to get that outside perspective of, saying, okay, you've been telling this story forever and that's a great story, but the way I'm looking at it, you have this beautiful nugget of story right here. We need to start telling that story. Once that story is pulled out, then we do all the things I just talked about. We plan it, we strategize about it, and we make that the theme for everything that we do, and then we execute it across all the platforms. It's fun to find that nugget. It's fun to say, you know what guys, this is gonna work, and then 6 months down the line, that story is now resonating. We're both a web design firm and a marketing firm. So we have a kind of weird, unique set of skills. But the point here is if you gravitate towards one or the other, or if you end up being a tasting room manager, or you end up being a national sales manager, you need to know that these things are all involved. And if you're not particularly good at copywriting, hire a good copywriter. If you're not particularly good at one of these things, you just have to know to find a good person to do that. And so these skill sets are all kind of combined into what we do on a daily basis. So tools we use on a kind of daily basis, again, organization stuff. If you have skills in Photoshop and you're a good graphic editor, that's going to go a long way towards all these things that you need to do now. Having some Google Analytics and kind of data analysis experience as well is worth a lot when it comes to resumes and comes to finding jobs in this field. So just know that as you get into these things and you have a chance to take a class or on data analysis or your statistics and that kind of thing, it can help in this career field as well. I say think big and execute small, which is essentially me walking into a winery for the first time saying, I want to do these 18,000 things with you, but we have to at some point figure out this is the one good idea, and then we need to execute it really, really well with no mistakes. And so it's the ability to have that big vision, but be able to execute it on a really small micro level across everything you want to do. The second one here, and I'll have an example of this in a few seconds here, is, and I'm constantly doing this, if I see an ad on TV that I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea, I instantly say, how can I apply this to the wine industry and what client would be good for this? And so, for example, a few years ago, Starbucks does, and a lot of people do, but Starbucks particularly did it well, the 12 days of holiday gifting. And so they had an app, they had the website, and every day you're like, what's my Starbucks deal for today? And 12 days in a row, December 1st through December 11th, it was Starbucks deal. And so we're like, all right, let's go use that. And so our Stewart for the past, this will be now the third year that we'll do it, we have the same thing, 12 days of gifting. And every day we reveal a different deal, and I'll show you how that execution of that in a second, just as a good example. But that's just the kind of thing of when you're in this environment and you see something that's out there that's working, instantly try to apply it to the wine world. How can I sell wine based on this idea? So the challenges. Third one I already mentioned, everybody here sells the same wine, so how do we get around that? First one though is really indicative of the Oregon wine industry, a little less so now that more money's coming in. But people got into this business not because they wanted to sell wine. People got into this business because they wanted to make wine, because they loved wine, because they were passionate about the wine. And then somewhere down the line, 5-10 years later, they said, oh crap, we actually have to sell this wine. And that was the third part that they were always forgetting about. We grew the grapes, we made the wine. Oh wait, this needs to get out to the market. This needs to get out to people. So there's that realization. It's a little farther along now than when we first started, obviously, but it's a challenge that you have to go into. Is there's not a whole lot of business and or marketing skill at some of the smaller mom and pop wineries, and so that's why I have a job, honestly, because they offload a lot of that to me, and they kind of see that now as a valuable resource. So I'll just show you two examples of campaigns that we've done. I've mentioned the one already, just to kind of give you an idea of what it takes to do a quick campaign, and then at the end we'll just do some Q&A. So 12 days of gifting. So this is an image from, I guess, day 10, I think it was, yeah, of last year. And essentially we had 12 images ready to go. All stuff here is basically that. So what did we do here? It was a lot of project planning. It's kind of sitting down and saying with them, okay, we have 12 deals to come up with. What are the deals? When are shipping cutoff dates? How do we, what wine do we want to sell? How much do we want to discount it? Do we want to go shipping or do we want to go discounts? All that kind of stuff. So once that's all created, great, now we have the idea. Now we have to execute it. And everything needs to be scheduled and planned and executed. So that's kind of the workload that's involved in something like that. And at the end of it, of course, how'd we do? Was this worth doing? It cost this much to go in for us to do it. We sold this much wine. What's the ROI on that? And should we do it again next year, right? So after everything, we always analyze that. We are a web design firm. We do a lot of websites. So we recently did Lunabean. I think in April we launched it. But again, what's involved in it? If you do get into this side of things, then if you're taking some web design classes here at Linfield, they probably offer them, I imagine, or computer science classes, it's a good thing to get into. Even if you end up working for a winery, knowing a little bit of Java, knowing a little bit of basic HTML, knowing a little bit of CSS will go a long way to basically, if you're ever in this position of like, oh no, I need to update the front page of the website, but my website was built 8 years ago, and if you know how to get in there, use an FTP program and do a little HTML to fix it, you're going to be a very valuable resource for that winery.